The refusal came quietly, almost casually, yet it struck like a slap across the face. In the early gray light of the hangar, with engines humming and the smell of jet fuel hanging in the air, one man's judgment froze another man's world. A seasoned pilot looked at the co-pilot beside him, saw not skill or certification but exhaustion in his eyes and a child's drawing tucked into his flight bag, and decided he would not fly with him. In that moment, the single father standing in a crisp uniform felt something old and heavy rise in his chest, the familiar weight of being underestimated, dismissed, and reduced to a story no one wanted to hear. Before this story goes any further, take a second to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in judging people by their hearts rather than appearances, then like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this only matter if they remind us to be better humans. The co-pilot's name was Daniel Reed, and his life had not unfolded in the neat, predictable lines people expected from someone who flew multi-million-dollar aircraft. He was a single father to a 7-year-old daughter named Lily, a child with curious eyes and a smile that hid how much she missed her mother. Lily's mother had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving Daniel to navigate grief, parenthood, and a demanding career all at once. Every morning began before sunrise, with Daniel packing lunches, checking homework, braiding Lily's hair as best he could, and promising her he would always come back home safely. Flying was not just his job, it was the promise he made to keep their lives afloat. That morning, Daniel had arrived at the hangar already tired, not from flying, but from life. Lily had woken from a nightmare, crying and clinging to him, afraid he would disappear like her mother. He had sat beside her bed until she slept again, whispering reassurances he himself desperately needed to believe. When he finally reached the airport, his uniform was spotless, his credentials impeccable, yet the quiet circles under his eyes told a story of long nights and relentless responsibility. The aircraft they were scheduled to fly was no ordinary plane. It was a private jet, sleek and immaculate, leased for a high-profile international charter. The captain assigned to the flight was known for his strict standards and sharp tongue, a man who believed excellence came only through control and authority. When he learned that his co-pilot was a single father who had requested a slight scheduling adjustment earlier in the week to attend a school meeting, something in him hardened. To him, personal life was weakness, and weakness had no place in the cockpit. The refusal did not come with raised voices or dramatic gestures. It was delivered with cold professionalism, wrapped in concern about focus and reliability. Yet everyone in the hangar felt the tension shift. Mechanics glanced away. Ground staff pretended to check paperwork. Daniel stood still, his hands clenched behind his back, absorbing the familiar humiliation. He had seen this look before, the unspoken assumption that loving too deeply somehow made him less capable, less disciplined, less worthy of trust. As he walked away from the aircraft, memories surfaced uninvited. Nights spent studying aviation manuals after Lily fell asleep. Early mornings rushing to daycare before simulator training. The day he nearly quit flying altogether because grief had made the sky feel too heavy. He remembered how Lily had pressed a crayon drawing into his hand that morning, a stick figure plane with a tiny heart drawn on its wing. That drawing was still in his bag, folded carefully, a reminder of why he endured the judgment and the loneliness. What few people at the airport knew was that Daniel's life extended far beyond the uniform he wore. Years earlier, before tragedy reshaped his world, he had made a quiet decision to invest every spare dollar he earned. He had grown up poor, watching his parents struggle, learning early that security was never guaranteed. Aviation had given him opportunity, but investing had given him independence. He studied markets the way others studied weather patterns, patiently, strategically, never chasing attention. Over time, his investments grew, not out of luck but out of discipline and foresight. When his wife became ill, Daniel liquidated nothing. He worked harder, flew longer routes, and trusted his plans. After her death, investing became a lifeline, a way to ensure Lily would never fear instability the way he once had. He never spoke of it at work. Wealth, to him, was not a badge to wear but a tool to protect what mattered most. By the time Lily turned 6, Daniel quietly owned the aircraft he now stood beside, leased back through a holding company he had established years earlier. The captain who refused to fly with him did not know any of this. He saw only a man who asked for understanding in a world that prized toughness. As the minutes passed, operations managers gathered, reviewing contracts and schedules. The delay was becoming costly, and questions were being asked. The aircraft was registered under a corporate name unfamiliar to most of the crew, but one call from dispatch changed everything. The color drained from faces as information filtered through hushed conversations. Daniel was called back toward the aircraft, not with an apology yet, but with confusion and urgency. The captain stood rigid, his confidence visibly shaken. The truth emerged not through confrontation but through documentation, through registration records and leasing agreements that told a story no one had expected. The co-pilot they had dismissed was not just qualified to fly the plane, he was the reason it existed in their fleet at all. The hangar felt suddenly smaller, the air heavier. The captain's authority, once unquestioned, seemed fragile now. Daniel felt no triumph, no surge of vindication. Instead, a quiet sadness settled over him. He had not wanted recognition, he had wanted respect, the simple acknowledgement of his professionalism and humanity. The revelation of ownership was never meant to be a weapon, yet it exposed something uncomfortable: how easily people judged without knowing the full story. As preparations resumed, Daniel moved through the pre-flight checks with calm precision. His hands were steady, his focus absolute. Flying had always been his sanctuary, the place where grief softened and responsibility sharpened into purpose. The aircraft responded to him the way it always had, smoothly, reliably, a testament to countless hours of care and attention. Around him, attitudes shifted. The same eyes that had dismissed him now watched with cautious admiration. In the cockpit, silence replaced tension. The captain, stripped of certainty, seemed suddenly aware of his own vulnerability. He had built his identity on authority, on being above reproach, and now he faced the quiet consequence of his prejudice. Daniel did not gloat or withdraw. He performed his duties with the same professionalism he always had, guided by a belief that dignity was not something to demand but something to embody. As the aircraft lifted into the sky, sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow across the instruments. Daniel thought of Lily, probably sitting in class, her small hand tracing letters on a page. He imagined telling her later about the flight, not the conflict, but the beauty of the sunrise above the clouds. He wanted her to learn that strength did not come from proving others wrong, but from staying true to oneself even when misunderstood. The flight was flawless. Every maneuver was precise, every system checked smooth. Passengers slept comfortably, unaware of the drama that had nearly grounded them. Somewhere between cruising altitude and descent, something shifted inside the captain as well. Watching Daniel work, seeing the calm competence born of resilience rather than arrogance, forced a reckoning. Respect, he realized too late, could not be demanded through authority alone. Near the end of the journey, as the aircraft descended toward its destination, Daniel felt a sense of closure he had not expected. Not because he had been validated by wealth or ownership, but because he had proven to himself that he could endure judgment without losing compassion. The world had tried to reduce him to a stereotype, and he had responded by being more than that, quietly, consistently. If this story is touching something deep inside you, if it reminds you of moments when you were judged unfairly or underestimated because of your circumstances, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who need to hear them. Before the story ends, I want to ask you something personal. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel, or share a moment when you or someone you love was given a second chance. Your words matter more than you know. When Daniel returned home that evening, Lily ran into his arms, waving the same crayon drawing he carried with him every day. He lifted her, feeling the familiar weight in his shoulders and the familiar warmth in his heart. In that moment, titles, aircraft, and judgments meant nothing. What mattered was that he had come home, that he had stayed true to himself, and that kindness, even when delayed, had finally found its way into the sky. If this story touched your heart, if it left you feeling inspired or emotional, please engage with the video one last time. Like it, share it, and let others know that behind every uniform, every tired face, and every quiet struggle, there is a story worth understanding.